Hey guys, welcome to Crypto Command. The story of the past 24 hours is undoubtedly the Binance exchange, the possibility of a hack happening or some sort of phishing scam that exposed a number of user accounts. Clearly, when something like this happens to one of the largest exchanges, this is going to have a major effect on the markets, and that is exactly what we saw. There was overall a massive sell-off in the markets. All we saw was red over the past 24 hours. Overall market cap dropping down to 410 billion at this point. So really saw a drop probably around 50 billion overall in the total markets. So this was a strong reaction to everything that could happen with Binance, but there is a reason that Binance is one of the top exchanges. One of those key reasons is that this team executes incredibly well, and in the face of this particular event, the transparency they had in dealing with the issue was phenomenal. So I'm just going over here to the CEO's Twitter page, where you can see the updates that he was giving in real time, letting people know what was happening. So the key tweet here was all funds are safe, basically saying that there was a possibility that phishing was happening. They were working on it, but the funds were safe. Over time, continued to update this, seeing that they had identified irregular trades and had the alarm system in place. This is what allowed them to react quickly to it. And then particularly goes on to say, explaining the types of things that are happening in phishing scams. And anyone in Twitter or anyone in crypto right now is experiencing this in some way. If you go on to Twitter, you see all these posts about people trying to redirect you to sites that are not legitimate, saying, send a small amount of Bitcoin or Ethereum and you'll get more in return. And so as a result, you're getting these Twitter handles not giving crypto away. Vitalik says something similar, not giving away Ethereum. And so this is becoming a big problem for the space in general. So the main takeaway from this is that you have to be careful. And so that's what this particular post points out, is how this phishing scam was really a redirect to Binance, where the Binance exchange name was changed slightly so that you would get on a site that could expose your account. And finally, the last post we had here was that trading resumed. Everything is returning to normal on Binance. So overall, this situation handled particularly well. But this threat remains to the crypto markets in general. However, remaining bullish on the overall market, what can you do because of this major sell-off? Well, we've been watching the price of Bitcoin tremendously over the past couple of weeks. And so let's take a look at that and look at the sell-off that happened over the past 24 hours, where that positions us now, what exactly has happened. It does change the way that we look at the price action a little bit. Most notably, with the major red candles that we saw over the past 24 hours, we dropped straight through one of our points of support. That was a shorter term point of support. Let me zoom out a little bit here, that we had seen really since the market had been moving sideways. And that's why I had drawn this line around 10,300 as a dotted line. We had seen a little bit of support and resistance across here, but with major news like what happened with Binance, the price just shot straight down across it. But what's interesting, particularly if you look at this, the wick on this candle, we did find support at this larger level of support at around 9,500. Zooming way out, the reason that we've drawn a level here is that historically, this level has provided support and resistance, particularly one of the places where we saw a lot of fluctuation as before the major bull run up at the end of 2017. And so this is where we've seen support recently in this as well. And so the channel that we are looking between, the larger channel, is 9,500 to 11,600. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to get rid of this shorter term support line as we move straight down through it. So this is the daily chart on Coinbase. What I'm going to do now is flip over to the 4-hour chart, which I think is a little more interesting. So you can see this huge spike in volume that really happened as we saw the Binance news, the candle just dropping way down. And so we saw this overall trend just moving down, down, down through this channel. But where does that leave us today, and where are we positioned? So I'm going to zoom out here a little bit more and try to look at what we've seen, especially as we've been largely throughout this channel between the levels that we just described. So we have seen price dips over time, even as we moved below the 9,500, as we made the large move back to 6,000. Taking a look at the 4-hour chart, there have been a few points of considerable dips. So let's just highlight those quickly. I'm just going to draw a rectangle where you can see the overall dips that have occurred and what has happened over this time, and the possibility that we just experienced another one. So every time we have seen one of these relative lows, we have seen the RSI go into an oversold position. So just look at this correlation. So every time you see one of these dips, you see the RSI go to the full oversold position, and that is exactly where we are right now. So let's take a look at what happened to the price after the relative strength went into this region. You see at least a short-term correction, a bounce back up. And these are largely where we're seeing these support and resistance lines. So here we saw, after we bounced down to the level of support at 9,500, we went back to the level right around 12,800, which is one of our larger points of resistance. This is another historical level that we have seen support and resistance across over time. Back in early February, when we started a lot of this sideways movement, the relative strength dropped. We had at least a bump back. Of course, there was the bigger move down here. So in a short period of time, we hit a couple of relative lows. But of course, after this level, the second one going down, then we started to see a bounce back upward. Looking at the levels where we are today, and the fact that the relative strength has hit below into the oversold position again, and the fact that we are bouncing directly off of our level of 9,500 support, it seems reasonable that the bounce back, at least in the upward direction to 11,600, could be the place where we go, especially after the FUD around Binance dies down. Where we were headed before was definitely to test this 11,600 level. So having a quick bounce back would seem pretty reasonable and would be in line with what we have seen recently with the RSI at these positions. So that is the way that things are shaping out right now. I hope this is helpful to you guys. Please remember that this is not financial advice, simply trying to draw some pretty simple technical lines here to try to understand where the price of Bitcoin may go. I'm going to continue to watch the price of Bitcoin. If you find videos like this helpful, Please subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and until next time, thanks for watching Crypto Command.